Hello, this is Nansu.
Hi, Nanchu. So we'll give it a couple more minutes and then we can get started.
Anubhuva said that he won't be able to join the meeting.
Yeah, that's okay. I know that Jeff is also busy with Vance today. So maybe we wait for until another 4 minutes or so, or 3 minutes, and then we can get started. Hello.
Good afternoon, this is Ian.
Hi, Ian.
Hi, Anu.
We are just waiting for a couple of minutes for Jeff to call in. Hello.
Hey, this is Jeff.
Hi, Jeff. Okay, so we were actually just waiting for you to call in. So let's get started. Actually, the agenda today is kind of short. We will just get updates on action item and discuss about the no-cost extension work. So with the action items, we still have discussions going on with the Common Pilot folks, and but I believe that there's no meeting tomorrow, so potentially the next week. Jeff, I actually called in kind of late for the last meeting, and by the time I called in, I think the meeting finished. So, are there any updates?
For which meeting?
The Commons pilot.
Oh, the Commons pilot. Well, I mean, there was some discussion about who can be the issuing authority for identifiers, because it's a pilot, and who's funded to issue identifiers, and so there's, I think, still some questions around that. But I mean, basically, I think it boiled down to that, we should be doing things that, we need to do anyways, not do anything completely new for the pilot, and so, which is, what we're doing anyway, so.
Right, but
I mean,
so
I think,
it's
was that sort of
no
the
need.
version?
okay. Is he
John, you're on.
with identifiers or not?
Well, John,
There's no
John,
need
was that?
for
Did
there
I hear
to
you?
be single.
It's Dawi. Just joined in.
Okay.
So, Jeff,
So are
this is Ian. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we should, if they're thinking that there needs to be, a single source of authority for identifiers, we could point out that that's not necessary, and that people can, as you say, do what they need to do, and as long as they do it under their own prefix.
Yeah, and the question was for some of the ones that where they aren't being deposited in another repository. So I think that's where the open question was, because it wasn't quite clear, would NIH be potentially the place for that, or with the cloud environment, and it wasn't sort of going to be, CEDAR was sort of, I think, hedging a little bit, because they can't make that of a long-term commitment to hosting identifiers. So.
I mean, I'm trying to get an email out about this because, we've talked before about what's happened with the Genomic Data Commons and their use of UUIDs, and maybe the NIH Data Commons wants to do something similar.
Right.
In which case, NIH would be, or somebody that NIH designates would be the generators of identifiers. But we haven't had that conversation yet.
Okay. So the next is basically contacting repositories. Ian, I just saw your email about GDC and GCIA. For ENDAR, do you want us to contact?
I had previous contact with Greg, so I'd like to set that one up as well.
Okay.
But let's make sure I do that. So I'll follow up this week on that.
Okay. And for Viper, I'm still trying to schedule the meeting. Potentially that would be for November 14th. Dave, since you're on the call, I have a quick question. So could you connect us to somebody at Import so we can talk to them as well?
Oh, sure. I can. And also, I think I also talked with a staff at Import. I think there was some import data sets. They have from different clinical trials, and then they have the same de-identified IDs. Now, those data sets may be also good for to kind of for the integration. But I'll send you 2 names and to connect you to them.
All right. Thank you. I'll send you a reminder after the meeting so that you can follow up on that.
Sure.
With IEDB, I think Philippe and Alejandra are talking to the IEDB folks, and I think they've started doing some mapping with the IEDB data sets to that format. So I don't see them on the call, but that was the update that we received some time ago, I think last week, from Philippe for IEDB, but we haven't set up a meeting time with them. So I think that's something that we will follow up on. With ICPSR, we have a meeting scheduled for November 21st, which would be where we would discuss both alignments with schema.org and also talk more about having going a little deeper into ICPSR with the indexing. I think ICPSR would be involved in both AIM-1 and AIM-2 of NCE plans. With Fitbit, we'll have our second meeting. We already had our meeting with Matt, I think 2 weeks ago, and we will have our second meeting, and Matt is going to be bringing his technical team also to the meeting, so if there are more specific questions, I think we will discuss that potentially briefly on November 14th. So I'm hoping we could do part of the meeting can be for discussion with Fitbit and a part would be for Viper. Also, John from CEDA had emailed, and there are some discussion items that they'd like to talk about with regard to what they're doing with schema.org. And since we are planning to have a meeting, Jeff, with Alejandra, you and Firat, I thought it would be a good use of time to kind of have half an hour meeting with Firat so we discuss what we want to with regard to the specifics of implementation and the mapping and the issues that Firat came across when he was trying to look at the mapping between that and schema.org. And then we spend the second half of the meeting with John and his folks from CEDA and have a discussion about what exactly they would like to do. And they apparently also have done some DAT schema.org mapping, and they're finding some discrepancies. So I think it would be good to use the same meeting for both. So that's the update. And if anybody else would like to join this meeting, this is going to be on Thursday, that's day after tomorrow, at 1 p.m. Central Time. If anybody else would like to join, please let me know, and I'll forward the email invitation. But I think the plan is for it to be a very technical discussion with regard to the implementation.
Yeah, can you send me the invite again? Because I think my Google Calendar ate it.
Okay, I'll do that. So this again is for part of it. The work is actually going to be the meeting that we're going to have will feed into the DATS output that we have that Firat is working on to ensure that we have that available as an output format through our APIs. In the search engine work, we've received the source code from UIEC folks, and I think Kirk is taking a look at it. So that's something that we will work with them. We haven't heard anything back from the Emory folks yet. For some of the other new functionalities, Zing is working on a display of most accessed data sets and the word cloud, which is going to be a part of the search results visualization. Zing, do you just want to briefly talk about what you did and
Oh, sure. Anu, could you give me the presenter?
Oh, okay. So you want to present or show? That's fine. So this would be UCT 800.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, no, just a minute. I think she got connected. You can promote her. Download the plugin first.
Just click that.
Okay.
Get connected, right? Yeah.
You have to share.
Okay. You can just share your desktop. Yeah.
Yeah, I connected the meeting. Share desktop. Give us 1 more minute, please.
Oh wow. But Jing, I already see your screen actually. You don't need to call in again.
Oh, okay. Because we don't see it here.
Maybe you just need to change the monitor that you're displaying.
Oh,
So
okay.
go to share and then pick which monitor you want to share. If you have 2 screens.
Okay. So, Anu, can you see the screen now?
No.
Ah.
Yeah, now I see it. But it's still kind of like,
Recursive, right?
yeah.
So you want to briefly talk about it instead of sharing
Or
your
just talk
screen?
about it, yeah.
Oh, okay. About the most accessed data set, I get the many data sets get the user history from the index of DataMed, the index, and got top 8 data sets about and got 8 records from the index. And then from each record, I got the documentation ID, and then I get the records from the corresponding repository index using the documentation ID, and then display the most accessed dataset on the UI. And for the word cloud, to, for example, to search chest pain on the home page, and click on search the button, and will display some related keywords about chest pain on the word cloud. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
So I have a question. So when you're pointing to for the word cloud, I know you asked with regard to the NLP fields, right?
Yeah.
But when you're pointing, can you point to only one metadata field, or can you point to multiple metadata fields for the word cloud?
Now I'm using dataset description field, but I'm not sure if I need to add the title of dataset and merge term of NLP fields. I'm not sure about the next 2 fields. Yeah.
But will it let you point to multiple fields, or do you have to pick only one field?
Now I use one field about the description of dataset.
Right, but will it let you point to multiple fields or not?
Because it's not include one field, I think we can discuss it later about this detail.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Anna.
Thanks. So I think with reference to the work, that's pretty much what we have right now. The NCE plans, I think, will get a little bit more crystallized moving further as we talk with the repository folks. And that's all I have. Another update, which is actually a housekeeping issue, is just that we will be canceling the meeting for next week. I'll send out the cancellation soon. And that's just because we'll be going for EMEA. So I don't know who's all coming to EMEA. I know Elizabeth is going to be there. Is anybody else coming? Okay. So I'll see you next week then, Elizabeth. And is there, I think it's a relatively short meeting today. Is there anything else that we need to talk about?
Hi, this is Nansu.
Hey, Nancy.
And I want to talk something about the perspective paper. And actually, I have a discussion with Lucila. She wants to have analyzed on the how many times we spend on each repository. But I cannot find such information from the spreadsheet in the Google Doc. So I just find a few, like around 16 repositories have the time. But for other repositories, we don't have that information. So I was wondering that whether like your team or Jeff's team have such information.
So when you mean So which of the repositories don't have that information, do you know? Because I don't
Yeah,
think that information was recorded when we first started working with the repository, so the initial couple of them probably don't have that information, I think.
Right,
Correct me
right.
if I'm wrong. Jeff?
Yeah, the question is what time is, right?
The beginning time and the
no. Well, for example, we look at DataCite, right? There was a lot of time spent with us and Martin Fenner, to get the API, right? But that really isn't.
Right.
I mean, that isn't really dealing with the curation. Once we got the API, it took Barak. He had to implement the connector for the API, which took, probably a half a day, and then the mapping took another half day. But that gave us 35 repositories. So then is it, 20 minutes for that repository, or? So we might want to. We can talk about that. I haven't looked at those in a while, but and we can set up a time to talk about those because it's sort of an it depends question.
Right. Just we just want to have that give the clue in the paper that how many times you are expecting to spend on processing those repositories if you wanted to ingest them. So actually with the current the data I have like 16 repositories from our 3 teams, and actually there are some outliers, except the outliers which means that we spend more the time is not spent. It's not relevant to the complexity of the repository. Otherwise, it's quite linear correlated with the complexity of the repository in terms of the how many data properties contained in each repository. So I just want to know that whether you have more data, like probably it's because I think the older repository we have is like 124, but I only have 16 of them contains such time information. So I was wondering that whether we can collect more data out of that. So that's the question.
So you said 16 or 60? 60 or 16?
16.
16. Yeah, we'll have to. We can go back and look at the records.
So is this so when you're talking about the time, are you talking about the time when we first start kind of looking into a repository to when it actually gets onto the UI? Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, the timings. The repository was assigned to each team until the repository is ingested. So actually including all the time we spend, like screening, go to seek for API, mapping, curation, such things. So just from the beginning to the end, how much time we spend on each repository.
Okay, and so is this the spreadsheet? Sorry, let me share my screen. So do you see the spreadsheet? Is that the one you're talking about?
Actually, I look at another spreadsheet. I didn't know this existence of this spreadsheet, but this is about 1.5, right? Is that we can use this one?
It continues. Actually, it does continue, but it's not really completely updated because we didn't want to keep changing it, right? So we kind of continued the same thing.
Right. Oh, that's great. Actually, I didn't know this one. I was looking at another spreadsheet, not this one.
Okay, I will look at this one. Then if I have questions, I will come back to you.
Okay, but I think this may need to be updated too based on the other spreadsheet. So
Right.
we can do that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So please update this spreadsheet, and I will collect the information from this one. Thank you. So Anu, can you send this spreadsheet, the URL to me? I'm afraid I don't have this one.
All right. I can actually just let me put that into the chat box. But I can send it to you as too, Nancy.
Oh, I see that. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else that we want to talk about?
Anu, I have one thing. I was at the Force 2017 meeting last week, and I met Karen Uke, who is, among other things, from Wormbase. She's at Caltech.
Okay.
I think Stephanie Hagstrom said that she would mention this also to Jeff. So Jeff, you may be in the loop on it.
She caught me this morning.
Yeah. So the story is that at some point there'd been some contact from BioCaddy with Wormbase. I think Stephanie was talking to Karen about that, and she pointed her in Jeff and my direction. So Karen would be interested in sorting out whatever issues there were in importing Wormbase.
Well, I think at the time we talked, they hadn't quite finished their current deployment. They were sort of in the middle of things. But we can definitely get back in touch with them.
So, and I confirmed with Karen that they are one of the model organism databases in the NIH Data Commons. So, Jeff, the other thing, her poster that she was displaying at Force 17 was actually about a journal they have called Micropublication.
Yeah, that's what they were working on setting up, yeah.
So is that what we were indexing, or were we looking at Wormbase?
Well, they were, because that journal, from what I understand, again, the conversations were a while ago, but that journal was meant to hold then information on like these micro-publications or data sets related to Wormbase. And they hadn't quite finished that at the time we talked, but if they have that up and running, we can definitely get back in touch and see what they have.
Yeah, it seems to be up and running.
Right.
I can forward the link to her poster.
Okay, that'd be great.
Actually, I'm not sure that I don't think the posters have an abstract on the Force 2017 site. So,
okay.
But certainly, but somehow I got to the micropublication site, so I'll send that link.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Ian.
Okay. Bye.
Is there anything else that anybody wanted to bring up? If not, I think we are done for the day. Thank you all for calling in, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Anna, do you have time? I need to talk to you.
Huh?
Do you have a minute?
Sure. Give me a sure.
It's not